So hello everyone, and you're very welcome to the first of our information webinars for the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund, which is in partnership with Business to Arts and is kindly supported by Arts and Business Northern Ireland. So this is just the first of our webinars this week. We have one this afternoon, which is a general overview and how to apply. And then our second webinar on Thursday is going to be more specific around audience, budget and evaluation. So just to give you a bit of a heads up in terms of our housekeeping today, we are going to be recording this webinar, and it'll be posted to a YouTube channel after it is complete. So if you have any, any queries or any breaks in sound or anything, you can always go back and view it through. In terms of housekeeping, so this is a webinar format of a webinar, so you cannot see any of the attendees. It's just ourselves here as panelists, and we've got three presenters today. My name is Eileen Hanratty. I am the Senior Manager of Membership and Projects with Business to Arts. We have Mary Nagelli, who is Chief Executive of Arts and Business Northern Ireland, and Hannah Lamont, who is my colleague at Business to Arts and who is Membership and Project Manager. So all attendees have the option to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, or if you want to put a question into the chat, either, we can take questions from both areas. We do have time set aside for a Q&A session toward the end, so do feel free to pop your questions in as the webinar continues. Whenever a question strikes you, just pop it in there, and we will try and get to it at the end of the webinar. In terms of our webinar today and our agenda, so we're just going to cover off a brief overview of Business to Arts and Arts and Business Northern Ireland, kind of who we are as organisations and what we do. We're going to give you a very short overview of the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund itself, go through some eligibility requirements and criteria, a brief sense of how to apply in terms of our online platform, and then we dive into the questions then through the Q&A session at the end. We do have a frequently asked questions document available on our website. Lots of questions have been asked as this is the second round of the fund. We've had a lot of questions and information gathered through round one. So all those questions are available on our website for you to view. But if any other new questions pop up, do send them through to us today. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that we can. So just moving on then to our next slide. Just to give you a very brief overview of Business to Arts. So we are a membership-based charitable organisation that brokers, enables and supports creative partnerships between businesses, individuals and the arts. So we're really at the epicenter of where business and creativity kind of comes together, and we try and enable those partnerships to kind of flourish and develop in any way that we can. So as you can see there, we have around a network of just over 300 members, made up of just under 100 corporate members that we work with on a variety of areas, and just over 200 members then in our arts affiliate organisation site. So some of the work that we do with our corporate members revolves around art sponsorship, commissioning artworks in a variety of art forms, whether it be small materials for marketing campaigns, specific sculptures for indoor, outdoor areas in the building. We work with our corporate members on corporate social responsibility programs as well, whether that be artist residency programs, helping to engage staff in a more kind of wholesome way with the arts and creativity. We help them with internal and external communications needs that they might have. And we also have a bespoke event program, which is throughout the year. So typically we would have 6 to 8 events per year, and all of our members are more than welcome to attend those. They're good networking opportunities. Obviously now we're all online, so it's a bit different, but we will be moving back hopefully to in-person events soon as we're into a bit more of a recovery phase of COVID. So hopefully we'll be able to see each other again in person, not too far away. We also work with our artists and arts organisations to provide a range of training opportunities and coaching in order to try and help them diversify their income streams, help them to grow their audiences, and also to enhance their strategic planning. In terms of our in-house programs, we run a number of programs throughout the year, which are kind of our mainstay. These include the Business to Arts Awards, which is our annual showcase of leading corporate and cultural partnerships in the Republic of Ireland. We have fundit.ie, which is a crowdfunding website, which is applicable for programs and projects all over the island of Ireland that wish to crowdfund for support. We have our annual CEO Forum, which is in partnership with PwC. That's where we have everyone come together to discuss maybe a high-level topic that has become prevalent or really kind of focused throughout the year. And we also have Newstream, which is our arts fundraising capacity building program, whereby we work with organisations to develop their capacity in terms of fundraising and development and capabilities and staff members. You can find out all this and more information on the business2arts.ie website. But for now, I'm going to pop over to Mary, who's going to give you a sense of what our sister organisation, Arts and Business NI, do.
Thank you so much, Eileen. And I'm just to say, on behalf of Arts and Business, we're really delighted to be partnering with Business to Arts and Bank of Ireland on this really important fund. And also just to take the opportunity to thank Bank of Ireland for the investment. It's so important at this time that the fund is there, and we're really delighted to be involved. The Bank of Ireland actually are members of Arts and Business in the North as well, and have been supporting the sector right across Ireland for many years. So it's really great to be working with them on this opportunity. So from an arts and business perspective, very similar to Business to Arts in Dublin. We have about 120 cultural organisations that are members, and about 75 private sector companies as well that work with us. And really, like Business to Arts, our overarching purpose is to strengthen and sustain the cultural sector. So we do that in a number of ways through our membership offer on both sides. So for the cultural sector, a lot of our work really focuses on connecting them with businesses. So that would be through enhancing maybe skill sets on a cultural board. So we run a number of programs where we place business people on art boards, a program called Board Bank, and then another one called Young Professionals on Art Boards. And they're both live at the moment and bringing some really high level people onto cultural boards, particularly at this time. They're really keen to give back to the sector as well. And we also do a lot of support for the sector in governance. So knowing that that's the kind of foundation of strong income and fundraising strategies. And then just a lot of advice and programs and training throughout the year to support right across the whole spectrum of income generation, not just the traditional sort of sponsorship and engaging with the private sector, which is important, but also looking at trust and foundations, philanthropy, and then what are the new trends in cultural income generation now and moving forward. In relation to the private sector, then we work with the business members to kind of understand what are their issues and how can engagements with the creative and cultural sector help address those particular challenges. And there's a real energy and hunger, such as the Bank of Ireland, to do that, and lots of really exciting projects happening. We're actually in the MAC today, which is amazing. And it's just so lovely to be back in a cultural venue. We're recording some of the judges' films for our awards, similar to what Business Arts did recently. So our ceremony is going to be on the 17th of June, and anyone listening would be very welcome. It's a digital online ceremony. So if you go to our website, at Arts and Business NI, you'll see that you can book tickets. So if anybody wants to come along, it just gives you a real sense of what's happening with partnership with the private sector in the North as well. So real pleasure to be here, and if anyone's interested in finding out more about Arts and Business and membership for the North, as I say, if you go to the Arts and Business NI website, or we can connect through Hannah and Eileen afterwards. So looking forward to today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. I'm going to just move on to speak about why we're all here today, the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund. One moment, please. I'm just having a bit of technical issues. And just to say, I see a couple of people are saying that it's poor sound quality. Apologies, we're all in different places, and Mary's actually in the MAC, which is a big echoey room. So we were trying to get the volume up, but this will be recorded and posted on our YouTube, so hopefully you can all watch back and hear all the detail there. And do let us know if there's any other comments like that coming through. But just to give you guys an overview of the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund. So unless you already knew, this is our second round of the fund. Our first round was at the end of 2020. And we had lots of learnings from that round, and we've tried to implement them going forward into this second round. And so we're excited to have the funding again, but just to give a big overview of the, or brief overview of the fund as it stands. So we're aiming to distribute €1 million, or the sterling equivalent, over 2020 and 2022 through Bank of Ireland. This fund is designed to support artists and art projects across the island of Ireland, both in the Republic and Northern Ireland. It's open to all arts forms whose projects benefit a range of audiences. One thing that we're really trying to underline for this round is that we would love to see projects coming in that enhance the well-being of the communities and audiences involved with their project. And we aim to support groups of artists in collaboration with partner organizations. So this is where an artist is working with an established organization, be that an arts organization, a small business, community body, local arts office, those kinds of things, to produce a project that enhances the well-being of the communities and the audiences that it's involved with. So similar to the first round of the fund, we're keeping the criteria the same. So this fund will aim to support projects that have been adapted due to COVID-19 or projects that have been inspired by or respond to COVID-19. So in terms of adapting to COVID-19, this might have been, updates to equipment or funding to help you in relation to costs relating to technology, stuff that might need to adapt your venues, exhibition spaces, adapting models for the delivery of learning and engagement reaching your audience, and adapting artworks or art projects so that they can be realized in the public realm or in outdoor settings, which is increasingly important to our arts sector projects at the moment. So all of those projects would fall under the criteria that is eligible for this fund. Similarly, so inspired by or responding to COVID-19, for this, we would love to see projects that are for digital or online audiences, projects that are in the public realm or outdoors, that have a hybrid model of delivery. Maybe that's a portion is in venue, a portion is online, or that are responding to the themes of the pandemic, lockdown, opening of society, the kind of themes that have come up in all of our lives over the last 14 months or so. In terms of the practicalities of the fund, so the timeline for this round is we're open now. We opened on the May 5th, and we will close for applications on the 23rd of June. And so that will be 5 p.m. and it is a firm closure deadline. So please do try to apply on time and don't leave it to the last minute. In terms of after the fact, we will have an assessment process during the summer, and we aim to inform all applicants, whether successful or unsuccessful, before the end of August 31st of this year. The projects that are applying should aim to take place between the 1st of December 2021 and the 31st December 2022. So between this December and the following December, projects should take place. And we're aiming to give out grants to that are in the range of €3,000 to €10,000 or the sterling equivalent. So average grants would be for about €5,000 or the sterling equivalent. So that's the terms of practicalities. Just moving on to a little bit more about the eligibility criteria. So as I mentioned, the fund will support either existing artworks and art projects that have been adapted due to COVID-19 or new artworks and art projects that have been inspired by or respond to COVID-19. We want to see applications that are being delivered by or involve professional artists, and projects that involve a partner organization, so a venue or event, arts organization, community organization, or another funding agency or body. All of the projects that we see come in, we would like to see that they have appropriate fees for artists involved. At least 40% of the budget should be allocated to artist fees, because we are strong advocates of paying artists a fair wage for the work that they do. We would also like to see projects that engage in demonstrate an audience or community engagement, and that aim to engage with an audience or participants. And then again, the project should take place between the 1st of December 2021, so this year, and the 31st of December 2022, next year. And I'm just going to hand over to Mary again to just give us a little bit, because Mary was involved in our assessment process for the first round of the fund. So she actually brings an interesting insight into the top tips that she has for artists that are coming in for this round.
Thank you. I'll just lean in, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better maybe than earlier. So hopefully that's, even though it might look a bit strange that I'm leaning right into the camera. But yes, I was delighted to sit in on the assessment panel for the first round. I mean, really what I would say, I know I'm speaking to many people are very experienced in doing applications, but what I would really urge you to do is just really focus on the overarching purpose of the funds. And as I say, it does seem obvious, but that is just, I think, worth reiterating. And, you know, to really help make the project stand out and sing, and, you know, highlighting the piece around the well-being of communities. So that was something that I think really in the first assessment round that the judges really looked for from a Bank of Ireland perspective. I think it's one of the strengths of the fund is the fact that it puts artists and artistic practice at the heart. So, you know, that link and partnership between the artist and the arts partner, I think is something really that is worth singing about as well. So I'd encourage you to do that. From a practical point of view, because the demand was so high, a bit like shortlisting a job, the judges go through each of the assessment criteria and score the applications on that. So really look at the assessment criteria and go through that in a regimented way, and just really, really, to say, focus on that. So that would be something.
And I'll just add in, sorry Mary to cut across you, but I'll just add in about the assessment criteria. They're outlined in the eligibility requirements documents that's available on our website. And if anyone needs direction towards that, I can provide that by email or link in the comments section. Sorry to cut across you there, Mary.
No, please do.
Thank you.
Does that sound a bit better? Does that sound better, hopefully?
It does, yeah, thank you.
So the other thing as well, again, like any funding application, don't be tempted to talk about your needs. I would really talk about the impact that this project is going to make on the recipients. So the difference that the fund and the project rather would make to the people that are the beneficiaries of your project. So, you know, really illuminating that, I think, is going to be really important. And then the credibility of art partners, you know, the artists, the credibility of the artists, and it's really that viability of the project and your ability to deliver. So again, really highlight that. And it's trying to get the balance between that credibility to deliver, and, you know, that it's more than just a seedling of an idea, that it's actually, you know, you've worked it through, but balance of that as well, that it isn't going to happen, that it would happen anyway if you didn't get the funds, you know. So I think that is, you know, another thing to bear in mind. You have to sort of balance those two things a bit. The ones that the supplementary information really brought a lot of the projects alive, or the ideas alive. So don't be afraid to upload, you know, the films, videos, examples of your work, the website, because on the portal that the judges use, they can very easily click in to your websites and to supplementary information. So really just, you know, capture hearts and minds by bringing your project live, really, is what I would say. We thought it would be useful just to give you a couple of examples of the projects that were funded, but more from a judge's perspective. So one of the first ones in the north was the COVID Care concert. So the artist was the Mobile Music Ensemble, and the partner then was the Walls City Music. And that was working in partnership really to visit residential care homes throughout the region. And the performance is taking place in the grounds of the care homes, and the fund actually funded a sort of tent unit so that they mitigate the risks with the weather, and they were able to, you know, to take that quite extensively to a number of care homes. So it had wide community impact. The panel could clearly see the impact on the recipients and the communities. There was a clear partnership working. They were very credible in terms of their background and ability to deliver, and they'd mitigated against the risks. The benchmarks one was a really beautiful idea, partnership between a collective of visual artists based in the Boathouse Gallery just along the Antrim coast near the Giant's Causeway. And the idea was their partner was the National Trust. And what they did was, or what they're doing rather, is using driftwood that has come up from the beach below and actually creating a bench two benches that will be 2 meters apart that will sit out on the coastal path overlooking the sea. And I just think it really, for the judges, could really resonate with the poignancy of being able to just sit and reflect about, you know, what the pandemic has meant for people, and, you know, putting artists at the heart to create something that had a real legacy and a relevance to everybody, both locals and visitors as well. So you know, they were some of the things that really shone to the panel whenever they were making that assessment. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into that, which may be helpful.
Thanks, Mary. I'll move on to the next slide so Eileen can talk a bit. Sorry. Oh.
Okay. So similarly, so Mary has touched upon some wonderful projects from Northern Ireland that really struck a chord with the assessment panel. So I'll just do the same for the Republic of Ireland. Again, like phenomenal projects that were coming through. They all hit the right notes with the assessment panel for a real variety of reasons. But King Lear na Bhean, which is the image there on your left-hand side. So this is where there is essentially actors who are able to put on key scenes from some of Shakespeare's kind of main texts and kind of bring them to schools in a mobile venue. So this is really geared towards an adaptation of trying to help the curriculum and the Leaving Cert students actually be able to have a more wholesome way of kind of understanding Shakespeare and really getting absorbed in it. So it's not just book learning, and particularly this year with having to do it from behind a screen or behind a computer, to actually be able to see it come to life was something that the assessment panel really thought would have a really high impact. And again, such as the COVID care concerts, this is a COVID compliant performance. It's fully kind of weatherproofed as well. So everyone is in the back of the van, and whenever they come up to a school, they're able to just do the performance with everyone kind of covered over, and then students are all spaced out distantly in an outdoor setting, whether it's a playground or maybe in the front garden. And the performances are kind of very short and sweet. They're only up to 30-40 minutes long, and it's all very modern dressed. So it's trying to get people to think about Shakespeare and the real classical texts in a new kind of way. But similarly with the assessment panel, they really felt that it was highly impactful. And like Mary had said at a top tip, it's about the recipients of this project. So the Leaving Cert students are really getting a huge kind of awareness and a greater understanding of topics to study. And it's a bit of fun as well for them to be able to come outside, see people doing you know, fantastic works from the back of a van. It's always fun to see people doing things in a maybe different manner than what you would expect. So that was a really phenomenal project, which is continuing. So it's been quite busy the past few weeks with Leaving Cert season, and hopefully we will see Festival in the Van pop up as we approach the summer, and hopefully we'll be able to get out and about to those outdoor venues as we progress through the kind of recovery period that we're in, and hopefully will remain in now. Similarly, the image on your right-hand side, Yes But Do You Care? So this is a project by Mary Brett, which is in partnership with Philip Connaughton, who is a dancer and choreographer, and also a lot of engagement from the Dementia Carers Network of Ireland with the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland. So again, this really struck a chord with the assessment panel, that it's a real coming together of an artist working with other art practitioners and also a community group. In this instance, it was the Dementia Carers Network. And I really was thinking about how to kind of convey the sense of dementia care in a different lens, and how it means to be personally dependent or otherwise on your carer. And this project, so it's just recently been exhibited at the IMA in Dublin as well, but it's a real coming together of dance, movement pieces, spoken word, music, and also projected photography. What the fund enabled this project to do was actually to be able to record some sections of the project to be able to screen this online. So we tried to bring it to a greater audience, and considering the fact that we did have a further lockdown post-Christmas, and this fund really helped Mary Brett and the team with Yes But Do You Care kind of bring their project to a greater audience, and try and just really enhance the level of engagement that their audiences and also their participants were able to kind of reach. So there's, between those 4 projects, there's a huge variety of reasons as to why it really struck a chord with the assessment panel. But I think just to reiterate on Mary's top tips, the impact of your project on your audience, how it's really going to enhance the well-being of the audiences or participants who are engaged in the project, because a lot of the projects that we have funded do have lots of people engaging with it to kind of help drive that artistic goal and that practice. And then, yeah, just kind of really try and give us a really clear objective for what your project is trying to achieve, and then how you're going to achieve that as well. But those are only 4 of our projects, and we have a list of the full projects that have been supported on the business2arts.ie website. So you feel free to just have a look there and just check through the other projects that were funded in round 1. And we're looking forward to seeing what comes in now for round 2. I'm sure there'll be loads of additional wonderful projects that will come in as we move forward into this new phase of life.
Absolutely. And yeah, as Eileen mentioned, if anyone wants to read up on the other projects that were funded, it's business2arts.ie, and it's under our Arts Fund section is where they're all detailed, as well as all of the information about this current round of the fund. So if you need any further reading materials, head over to business2arts.ie. I'm going to speak a little bit about how to actually apply to the fund now. So as with the first round of the fund, our application process is entirely online. The website for this is business2arts.awardsplatform.com. That's the portal that we use for any applications online. So it's the same one we use for our Business to Arts Awards. So if you've applied to our awards before, or if you applied to the fund before, it's the same one, and you'll be familiar with the system. And you'll also already be in our system. So if you've logged in before with an email address, it'll actually remember you, and you don't need to create a new login. But so if you're returning, so just log in, you'll need to put in your email address that you've used before. And if you don't have your password to hand, or if you've forgotten it, just click forget password, and it'll prompt you to change your password so that you can create a new password and log in. But if you're a new applicant, you need to register. So there's a center pane where it has, register to access the portal, and you will receive a verification email once you have registered. So just ensure that if you're beginning a brand new profile on our website, you just need to make sure that you're checking your email for that verification email, and then you need to click the verification link that they send you. Once you're all logged in, to start your application, you have to just go to start application, and then it will automatically bring you into the Bank of Ireland Begin Together Arts Fund section. And you just want to make sure that you hit save and next every time that you move on to another section of the application. It will save your progress. So if you log out, you can come back tomorrow and begin again and start, keep going with it. It'll remember all of your entries. So don't feel that you have to sit down and complete it in one sitting. You can return to it many times until the deadline. A couple of tips. So just check your word count, and we do have some word counts on some of the questions, and some of the word counts actually differ from the first round. So just make sure you're being mindful of that. There is a word count box above every box that you're writing in. Ensure that you've completed all the relevant fields. The system will actually tell you if you haven't. So if you get to an end of a section and you want to go on to the next one, it'll say you haven't entered this bit. So just keep an eye on the system there. It'll tell you exactly what you're doing. And then once you've completed all your answers in all of the different sections of the application, just make sure you submit your application. So on the last section, it says submit entry, and you must click this before 5 p.m. on June 23rd to be eligible to apply. So just make sure you submit when you're fully complete. Submit it. If it's sitting there incomplete when the deadline comes around, unfortunately, it's not eligible. So that's a key point to remember. And I don't think I've missed anything there. Eileen, do you have anything to add on the application process?
No, I think just to throw it back to what Mary had said about the supplementary material. So you're able to attach up to 3 photographs and or video content with your application, whether that's just to show work that you've already completed on your own or in partnership with your organization, or if this has been a project that might have taken place previously, but now you're having to adapt it, or it's having to be changed in terms of its delivery due to COVID. You are able to upload up to 3 photographs or video files. And as Mary said, they can be very impactful for the assessment panel whenever they're reviewing all of the content. So they have the written content on one side, which is great and gives them a real sense of what the project is going to achieve. But to be able to see a visual representation of a project that you've done in the past or what you're trying to achieve in the future can really be kind of a quick win for the assessment panel to really dive down and see immediately what you're trying to achieve and what the impact will be on those audiences and participants that you're engaging with. So, but there is a limit of it's just 3 photographs or videos, because we want you to put your best foot forward. So really think about the best imagery or video files that you have to really give yourself the best shot whenever you're sending it through. And you can also upload any website links. If you have any content in a web page, you can drop that website link as well if you want the judges to pop out and view from some further material.
And just to say, on Thursday, we have a second webinar that's going to be doing a bit more of a deep dive into completing the application process, specifically relating to how you address the questions around audience evaluation and budget. So if you have question marks in those areas, I highly encourage you to attend our webinar at 1 o'clock on Thursday, and information about that can be found on our website as well. But unless there's anything else, I think we're going to go to our question round. So just to start, there's a couple of questions have come in. So, so Eileen, what does it mean to work with a partner organization? If you wouldn't mind giving us an overview.
No problem. So one of the main objectives of this fund is that an artist will be working in partnership with an organization. So the organization can either be an arts organization, a community group, heritage, it can be a local tidy town organization, for instance. And really what the fund is trying to achieve is that the artist is working very closely together with the partner organization to really kind of help develop the scope of the project and try and enhance the kind of range of audiences or participants that might be able to become engaged with the project, so that it's not all on one person's individual shoulders to try and push a project forward. As resilient and creative as artists are, sometimes it's good to have a bit of help to be able to get the word out about your project. And similarly, if you're an organization who wants to come in with an application, that's perfectly fine, that's great. Just make sure that maybe you kind of acknowledge who might be an individual artist that your organization is going to work with in the implementation of the project. I think I see a question coming in there in relation to that. But if you are an established organization that wants to do a project, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you mention one of the artists who you might be working with individually, just so that we have a sense of who you will be able to work with. If you don't know that at the outset of application, just make us aware of that, and the assessment panel will know that you will be actually engaging with individual artists, because as Hannah rightly said at the beginning of the webinar, we are keen that artists are a key part of this, like what Miri said, and that artists are also going to be paid appropriately. So it's just really for the assessment panel to be fully aware of what the project entails, and that you are working with individual artists to also help them drive their own kind of revenue and help drive the project forward.
Thanks, Eileen. I saw another question here. Is there a PDF or offline version of the application form? Unfortunately, no. The application has to be completed entirely online via our online portal. But if you do experience any technical issues with that, we are at the end of the email address there, begintogetherartsfund@business2arts.ie, or you can also call the Business to Arts phone, which the phone number can be found on our website, and we'll help you talk through that.
What I would say, yes. Sorry, Hannah, is that a PDF document of the questions themselves are available for reference. Yeah. So you can download them from our website just to review them. And maybe if you want to use that to collate your answers together with your partner organization or with the artist you're working with, you can do that offline. And then, but again, you need to return to the online system to actually drop the answers in. But if you wanted to work offline in the first instance, you're perfectly able to do so. But it's probably harder to keep a track of the word count when you're offline, because when you're on the system, it will tell you when you're over the word count. So just maybe bear that in mind if you are using the PDF to just generate some answers. Just keep the word count at the top of your priority list.
Thanks, Eileen. So a couple more questions coming in here. Will applications from voluntary organisations made up of non-professional and professional artists be accepted? In the short answer, yes. If there's a professional artist involved in your project, as well as non-professional artists and a voluntary organisation, that is an eligible partnership. I'm going to direct a question to you as well, Eileen. How fully formed does the project need to be? If your project is to devise a performance with a community group, do you need to know now what the performance will be about? Or can the project be to hold drama workshops with the group and choose a theme or subject in response to their interests?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't need to be fully formed as a project, because obviously the input from the participants will probably really change what your end goal might be in terms of an objective or a theme. But what I would say is that if you know that you're going to do drama workshops with people, kind of try and outline what you anticipate the impact of those workshops to be on the group of people you're working with, and what the end goal might be, whether you're going to put on a collective performance together after the workshops, or if the workshops are really to kind of help people come out of their shell and develop other skills, that's perfectly fine. So you don't need to know all of the ins and outs right now, but I think it's just about being able to kind of chart a path about what the project will encapsulate and where you might end up, but the actual thematics of that will vary according to the participants' interests and needs, and that's perfectly fine, because obviously as you work with people and engage with them, you might end up in a completely different area thematically than what you envisaged initially, and that's part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Another question here, we were unsuccessful in round one. Can we reapply with the same project again, or does it have to be different? I think, so yes, you can reapply with the same project. I think taking on board what Mary said regarding, giving your project or your application an edge, just make sure that you're looking at how you applied in the first round and where you could improve or change things, or, make sure that you're meeting the criteria of enhancing the well-being of communities and, engaging with specific audiences. So if you want to just, I wouldn't just do copy paste from the last round to the second round, but absolutely you are eligible to apply with the same project again. Do you provide feedback regarding the applications? We don't, so we will be, if you want to email us after the fact, we can try our best, but it's just the quantity of applications we receive, and we're a small workforce, so we just don't have the resources to provide full feedback. I'm going to just move on to some other questions. Does the county have any bearing on the judges' decisions, as in, are there a certain number of grants allocated to each county? Eileen, would you take this one?
Yeah, no problem. So as outlined, the fund really aims to fund at least one project per county on the island of Ireland. So the reason why we ask for county is just to get a bit of a sense as to where the primary activity of that project will happen. It won't have a bearing in terms of if there's one project funded in Antrim, there won't be any additional projects funded. It's more about kind of having a real sense of where the main projects are going to take place, and trying to kind of ensure that the spread of the fund is kind of nationwide. It won't go for or against you. It's just really for the assessment panel to really get an understanding of where the project is going to take place. And similarly, if you're a touring project, or if you have plans to tour, and give us the county where maybe the primary artist is based, or the organisation, just for us to be able to kind of see that you're maybe based on the west of Ireland, but actually you're going to be travelling nationwide, and that's perfectly fine. It's not a pro or con, it's just for information purposes, so that we're able to see whenever we're at the other end of this process and have these assessment projects, we're able to pinpoint exactly where they're going to happen. And just to give people the heads up that you can go see these wonderful projects manifesting in all of these counties.
Thank you, Eileen. Sorry, there's a couple of questions coming in here.
I think there's a question here just around, is it possible for two organisations to partner with an artist or artists? So yes, it's perfectly fine for more than one partner organisation to be involved. And we would just ask that you outline that on the entry form, just to give us a clear indication of what both organisations are bringing to the project in terms of assistance, whether it be their time, marketing push, whatever that might be, just for us to kind of have a sense of the three-way or more-way split of responsibilities and how you're all going to work together to actually push the project forward and have it manifest successfully. So yeah, you can have more than one. Obviously, we have a bit of a word count problem, but if you have a number of organizations and you want to add them in, do your best. Or if you feel you don't have enough room to pop in all the information about your partner organizations, just send us an email at begintogetherartsfund@business2arts.ie, and we'll see how we can supplement that after the fact.
Thank you. Can an organization or artist make more than one application with a different organization or artist? So this is actually this is a tricky one, because we want to encourage as many people to apply as possible, but in this instance we would encourage that if an artist is applying more than once, that in the second instance they're applying as part of a collective. From the arts organization perspective, we only want to see one application coming in from an arts organization. So that is actually a criteria that we've outlined in our eligibility document. So just if you are an arts organization, we should only see one application coming in from you. And if you're an artist, again, one application as a solo artist and one as part of a collective. Would you have anything to add to that, Eileen?
No, I think you've covered everything there.
Thank you. Do you want to see projected income for ticketed events as part of the budget? So I'm actually going to just promote our second webinar on Thursday, which will go into the budget a little bit more. So if you are interested in finding out more about that, please do attend our webinar on Thursday at 1 p.m. And we will go into more specifics about the income and the budget layout. Can an arts organization partner with a venue but bring in individual artists to deliver the project? Eileen, do you have a go at that one?
Yeah, so I think that reflects on one of the opening questions that we had, in terms of if you are the primary entrant from an organization and you're working primarily with an other organization to enact a project, that's completely fine. We do just ask that you make a note. The way that the entry form is split up, we've got a section for artist information, so that would be the individual artist who's going to contribute to the project to help it manifest and actually develop. And then the other section is for the partner organization. So if you're the lead applicant in the partner, perfectly fine to be linking up with a venue or a different space to maybe host an event or enable something to take place. We do just ask that you identify the individual artists that will be coming in to support you, just so that we can have a greater sense of how many artists might be helping you, and then that will assist us with looking at the budget to see, is there an appropriate proportion of fees going toward the artist versus going towards maybe both organizations at the top level. But that's perfectly fine to be working with a number of organizations and bringing in individual people to actually help it take place. Yeah, that's fine.
Another question here is this funding round mentions that we are interested in fine art, film and craft. Does that mean you are less interested in other art forms? Not at all. We just had a few takeaways from our first round of funding, and one of those takeaways was that the areas of film and craft were underrepresented as art forms. So just we want to highlight the fact and bring it to people's attention. Yeah, so we still want all art forms to apply for sure, but we were just bringing that to the forefront.
Thinking of that question there about the well-being of artists. I mean, I would say, from my understanding of the fund in the first round, that it would be welcome to, as well as the well-being of the community, is also the well-being of the artistic community. So, I think that would be the answer to that question would be yes, that would be okay.
Okay, so as we are coming out of lockdown, hopefully, does our project have to be adapted to COVID restrictions, or can we simply highlight on the application how we would adapt to COVID if necessary? Mary, would you feel comfortable taking this one, or
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think absolutely yes. That I think it is still the same criteria, but the focus is definitely much more about supporting reopening. So I think that would be welcomed. I mean, obviously demonstrating that you are following guidance in relation to health and safety, that goes without saying, I'm sure. But yes, I think that is certainly to be encouraged in terms of as we all move to this new kind of reopening and renewal phase.
Mm-hmm. There's a question here, what proportion of applications are successful? We don't know yet. From the first round, there was about 400 applications and 36 projects were funded. So 1 in 10, if you go by those kinds of estimates. But, it all depends on what comes in and the number of applications we receive, and then how we see fit with in regards to the assessment panel, how they see fit to fund the projects. Who is the applicant? Is the application to be written from the artist's point of view, as in I will work with X organization, or should it be written in the third person? The artist will work with X group too. Mary, do you want to speak about that from an assessment perspective, in terms of what you think is best from grant writing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would write it from the perspective of the lead partner being the artist or the arts organization. Bear in mind that the whole purpose of the fund is to support artists and the arts sector. So I would lead it from that perspective. I think that's going to give more strength to the lead applicant coming from the sector.
Yeah, I also think that it is helpful to write in the third person. Just in terms of, from a copywriting perspective, it's good to be able to give a kind of an elevator pitch or a blurb of your project. So if you say, the artist will work with this group, it gives it's more easy to sort of display the information that way. And yeah, how are we doing for time? Actually, we still have loads of time, so we can still keep talking about this. Eileen, do we need a letter of commitment from our partnered organisation as part of our supporting material?
No. So essentially, whenever you get to the end of the entry form, you have to read through the terms and conditions just to show that you're happy enough with those T's and C's before you click submit. At that point, all we need for your actual entry into the fund is just that you said you will be working with X organisation to facilitate this project. If your project is then successfully selected by the assessment panel, at that stage, whenever we move into the agreement phase of getting everything kind of nailed down in terms of that administration, we will then be asking you for a letter of support from your organisation, just to outline what they're going to be contributing to the project in order to help it be successful. And then at that stage, that's when, in order to actually get the grant funding, there are certain documents at that point that you need to send in to us. So not in the first instance. So all you need in order to actually submit an application is just the information from the organisation as to what they're going to do to help you with your project. So if you're having a hard time maybe getting a hold of someone, if they're off on annual leave, or with the kind of fluctuation now of people being in the office and out of the office, don't worry about an official letter. Only if you're successful, we will be asking you for a letter, and then there will be plenty of time at that stage to gather all of that documentation.
Just looking, Hannah, at that question about can you partner with an art centre that you've been working with over the pandemic? I would say yes, definitely. That would demonstrate the partnership and the give that credibility to your relationship, and that the project can give confidence that the project can actually be taken to development. So yes would be the answer to that question.
Yeah, and that would be a wonderful partnership to see come in. Would the publication of a book or documentation of a project that was ongoing through lockdown and was engaging with the local audience and providing well-being for the community qualify for the fund? Well, that's a tricky one, actually. I think I might need to think about that one. The publication of a book. I think what's important to remember here is that we would like to see arts projects that are created in partnership between an organisation and an artist. So if you tick those boxes, I feel that could be that would be eligible. But I would need to maybe think about that a little harder. Eileen, what are your thoughts on that?
I would see it more as the publication of the book is an extension of the project. But maybe if you were to think about using the publication of the book as a next stepping stone for how you could then maybe re-engage with the groups that you had already previously engaged with in the creation of the book. So I think it definitely could come into the fund. It might just be kind of think a bit more about, especially with their timelines. So these projects are meant to manifest between 1st of December of this year to the end of December next year. So if you have a book that's being published kind of before that date or next year, how might you actually engage the book or kind of re-engage the audiences with the book again after having spent such time with them over lockdown. So I think it's just about the next steps of you have the physical book, which has been generated through engagement, which is fantastic. How then might you re-engage people with the book?
Mm-hmm. Can a partner organisation be a non-traditional venue such as a hotel where events can happen? I think we've kind of spoken a little bit about partner organisations already, but in this respect, yes, in theory they can be. I would just refer back to the aim and objective of your project and what you're trying to achieve, and does this partnership make sense for the overall objectives of the project? So do try to think critically about those things and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with the application. Can a partner with a government funded body like the can you partner with a government funded body like the OPW? Mary, do you want to take that one? I feel like that's a just simple yes.
Yeah, I think as you've said before, it goes back to just demonstrating, how it fits with the purpose of the fund and what the outcome's going to be in terms of the beneficiaries. So if you're delivering on both of those through that relationship, then yes, that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that goes for there's been other questions about charities or universities. Again, I would bring you back to consider the aims and objectives of your project and what you want to achieve and if it makes sense from that perspective. I think we're kind of getting to the point where we've answered the majority of questions in and around, unless we were seeing something else coming in. I think that we've answered all the questions. So Eileen, do you have anything else further to add as we close out the session?
No, I think just that just to remind everyone that this webinar has been recorded. It will be available to watch back on our website. If you have any other questions that might come to mind later on this evening or when you're out on a walk, do feel free just to pop it into us at Begin Together Arts Fund at businesstoarts.ie. And that email address is valid for both applications in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Alternatively, if you wish to go to our colleagues in EMB and I, please feel free to do that either, and they can respond to any questions. But just to remind everyone again that the deadline for the fund is the 23rd of June at 5 p.m. We live in a very tech-savvy world, so we think systems are all good. I would not wait until the last day to submit your application. Just pop it in if you can a few days in advance, just in case the system becomes overwhelmed. Hopefully it won't, touch wood, but just in case, maybe better to get it in on the Monday or Tuesday. And then if you have any kind of queries about whether it's been received successfully, again, just drop us a note and we can confirm that the system has received your application, and we can just double check that with you if you have any concerns about that. But 5 o'clock, 23rd of June, yeah, please send us similarly photographs, video files for evidence, and be concise in your application. And yeah, any other questions, just send it through to either ourselves or our colleagues in Arts and Business NI.
Perfect. Well, I think we will leave it there. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everything again. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. We're really thrilled to see the feedback and that everyone took the time to join us for this. And again, as a reminder, we will have more of a deep dive into the budget evaluation and audience of the fund on our Thursday's Zoom webinar, which will be at 1 o'clock. And you can register for that on our website, businesstoarts.ie. But thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and talk to you soon.